All right, guys. Did the final on the GT40 bars. Apologize for how dirty this is, but when you have to make all these measurements, you go in and out of the port a bunch of different times. And can't help but get it dirty. All right, let's go over some of the specs. All right, 194 intake, 1.6 exhaust, 45-degree seats, 151 cc intake, 55 cc exhaust, 56 cc chamber. Intake throat is 1.284, which is only 80.2%. Very, very tight, even tight by my standards. I'm sorry, that's not the intake, that's the exhaust. But still, super tight. And I did have a reason for making them that tight on the GT40s. They do have an insert, and anytime there's an insert, I'm a little hesitant to make them too thin. But still, the way it worked out, we've got some decent flows through it, and it's still a very small exhaust port. Okay, the intake port opening was 1.945. The width is 1.195. The exhaust opening is 1.323. The width is 1.123. The intake throat was 1.688. North-south, I guess you could say, and 1.7 east-west. So I averaged them, which gives us an 87% throat, which is close to my 88 go-to, right? I measured the lengths of the ports, roof and floor, and then you average them. So we got a 5.07 average on the intake, and we've got 2.835 average on the exhaust. I drew these out. They are not perfect. This line is definitely higher than it should be. And this is not 1.668. So I think I have this angle a little too high. It should be a touch lower. I actually have a tool where I can get the angle just right. I forgot to use that this time. Sorry, guys. They're not perfect, but they're pretty close. Okay. Let's take a look. I put them through the Performance Trends Port Analyzer 3.5B is what I have. So this is what we've got, right? These are our inputs. This is our chart. Dark blue is our intake. And if we go to, come on, you can do it. This is an ancient computer, guys, sorry. There's our exhaust flows. And you can see we definitely max out. Now, I'm going to say part of the reason we're maxing out is we're saturating that super tight throat. Okay, now remember, it is a street engine, so the speed of the exhaust really makes a huge difference in your torque production, especially if you're going to use a decent-sized cam, and he wants to run a decent-sized cam. So from this point, I was able to do, let me see. Let me pause this and get to the right page. Okay, here is the basic layout of the head as far as CCs, valve sizes, throat sizes, valve angle, and so forth. This is the basic layout. And the cam I used was just, I got the specs of the old, the cam I used on Mikey's 302. That's why it actually says Mikey's 306 on top, which was a X3L3 cam. So that's got 542 lift. I think it was 228 at 50, which worked nice in a 302. It would work fine on a 351, but it's not gonna rev to 7,000 like it did in the 306. It would probably knock it down to, I'm gonna guess and say 6,500, which is about what the customer was asking for. So it's pretty close. All right, we gave it a 30 over bore. We gave it a 10.5 compression. Okay. All right, guys. Excuse the dogs, they're having a fit. Okay, performance potential at torque peak, which would be about 4,400. See, one thing I'm not crazy about this program is it doesn't take into consideration the intake manifold you're using. So that in itself, I have a big problem with. But let's see what it's saying. Okay, it's saying we'll make 465 foot-pounds of torque with a 351, which is not terrible. 389 horsepower at that point. Our volumetric efficiency is over 100, which is quite good. And its airflow is 478 at that point. Okay. Now, our horsepower peak will be 5,900. We'll make 403 foot-pounds. We'll be using 608 CFM. We'll be making 352 horsepower, and our volumetric efficiency is 99.7, which is still not too terrible. Then it goes through what your headers should be. According to this, it's saying we've only got 151 cc port. It would love to see a 202 cc port. For a 351, I don't know, that seems a little big, but they're the experts, right, guys? Well, take a look at that and let me know if I goofed up anything on here. It all looks pretty good. Now, see, this actually has exhaust duration at 224. I thought it was 228. Then again, I'm remembering stuff from like 30 years ago. There's actually a section in here to do the swirl. I'm going to pause this. Hopefully it doesn't blank out on me. I'm going to try to get the swirl done on this too. All right, just had to unpause this because it's about ready to quit on me. I'm having problems. Can't even find a way to put the swirl in on this thing. We may have to skip that. All right. Problems with the old computer. It froze up because this is actually set up to take input right directly from the Flowcom on the bench. And if you hit that, it gets locked into looking for data from that. So I had to restart it. Hold on. All right, guys, I figured it out. It actually just adds an extra column. So I got to go through and do the intake swirls. All right, guys. Kind of interesting. Let's take a quick look what we got on the page, right? 007, 700, 900. And then it drops down. And then it really spikes up. So it's relatively low swirl up until about 0.35. And that's what the graph is going to show. And I have it on good intel that you really don't want it to start swirling until you get that valve open a decent amount, and then you want to hammer it. So overall, I think that's an excellent swirl curve. It is high. We don't need almost 4,000 RPM of swirl. Now, will it hurt it? I would say if we were running more compression with a bigger cam and more RPM, I would say yes. But it's a street engine, guys. Always gotta think, right? Application, application, application. Because it's easy to just grind in a huge port that's a complete dog in the mid-range. And it will... it'll be fine if it's a drag race only engine, but something on the street is going to be a complete dog, and you're not going to enjoy driving it. All right, there's another graph on here. Intake flow coefficient. We're up almost 80%, which is not bad, and of course, as you're going through the curve, you drop down. Not spectacular when you're dropping down, 0.55. But you got to remember, we got nice efficiency in this area, right? Nice efficiency in this area, which is what we need to make our street torque. Okay, this is a cool graph. May not be the easiest to see. Let's take a look. Make sure you guys can see what's what on this. All right. So let's take a look at our intake velocity. Right. Really good in our early lift curve. Let's take a look at our green intake port velocity. Now DV says need to hit 300 feet per second in the lift curve, right? We're going to be, with the cam that we've got right now, it's 0.54, and we are 300 plus. All right? So that's good. That covers what we need to do. Light blue, exhaust velocity. Nice and steep in the beginning. That's a good blow off right there, right? And then it loses some, probably due to the tight throat. But our overall efficiency, moving 165 CFM with a small port, really isn't bad. Okay, now this is worth horsepower here. Take a look at the red, right? Exhaust port velocity. Take a look at how fast our exhaust port is. We're hitting 300 at less than 0.3. And we are 340 or so. What will that do? With 340 all the way, look at this plateau of super high speed exhaust pulse. What is that going to do, especially going through a really tight throat? All right, minimum cross section with very high speed. What does Bernoulli say? It'll really drop the pressure at that point, right? That's going to give a huge pressure differential on your overlap. If the cam is designed correctly, that'll really, really help in your torque production. And it will not hurt your high RPM horsepower. You guys can give me some feedback if I goof that up or not. Okay, let's do our exhaust percent. Now, I know there's rule of thumb, exhaust percent, blah, blah, blah. I really don't pay much attention to that. What I would rather do is make the ports as efficient as I can for the size of them, and then adjust the cam accordingly. And I'm pretty sure most good cam guys do it the same way. They take a look at the flows and the port sizes, and then they figure out what they need to do to make it really work. But take a look. Now, if I'm reading this right, we're 80+% exhaust to intake ratio, or it should be intake to exhaust ratio. So our exhaust is pulling almost as well as our intake at our low lifts. Remember, before 0.1, this is your overlap area, right? So it's going to be important for it to work well. And as we go down, right, let's go to our max lift, which is 540. We are about 70%. Anywhere else in the curve, we're above 70%. I think that's going to work really, really well. Let me know if you disagree, guys. All right, for some reason it still says ported E7s, but it's not. This is the GT40s we're looking at. Now this is an interesting graph, right? It's intake, exhaust flow area plus valve lift square. To be honest, I think I'd like you guys to tell me what's going on here, because this is our exhaust lift, right? This is our exhaust area. Notice it's flat. What do you think is causing that flat right there, right? I think I know, but I'm not going to give that away. I'm going to do that. We can do that in the comments. Red is our intake valve lift, right? And light blue is our intake area. Now, that's not quite flat. It's curved a little bit. But what do you guys think is going on here? Interesting stuff, right? Give me some feedback on that. I'm not 100% sure what to make of that. Okay, and here's a full-sized CFM graph. Hopefully you guys can see that. I realize this is an ideal, this ancient screen is not ideal for taking video of. Okay, let's do this part. I thought this was interesting. Overlap flow and valve lift square inch. I don't have anything to say about it because I'm not 100% sure what it's showing us. But it's showing us crank degrees on the bottom and 0.3 inch lift. One is our... I don't have an answer. And this one is similar, but not the same. Overlap flow, valve area, square inch. Interesting, right, guys? All right. Almost 17 minutes in. I think we did good today. Thanks a lot for hanging out. I'll talk to you soon.